Are Mournfang Cavalry any good in patch 5.0? Last time we saw these was barging into Celestial Dragon Guard and throwing lots of models around. We know they're big and beefy, but are they good? Let's find out. Recruited for 1100 gold and 275 upkeep. On Ultra, this gets you 12 mounted ogres with 7,776 health between them, or 648 per entity. You'll see a lot of parallels with Gorgers here. Armor is 90, a far cry from the Gorgers, of course, with leadership a modest 60, speed 75, charge speed 110. Melee attack begins at 36 with an attack interval of 3.2, so if there's long animations, there's also low downtime. Splash target size is medium, like foot ogres, and max target damage by a single model splash is 4, like the Gorgers. Melee defense begins at 30. Well, I've seen worse. Weapon strength is given as 120, split between 36 base and 84 armor piercing. The base model has no bonuses versus enemy type. Charge bonus is 68, and mass is 2000 per model. Mournfangs have Siege Attacker, Wall Breaker, Causes Fear, Hide in Forest, and that's it. As in, they do not get the Ogre charge rule. They do not retain charge bonus against Braced Dragon Guard. Deal with it. Perhaps by working around it and hitting unbraced Dragon Guard, or flanking cleanly, and so on. With Iron Fists requiring the Tier 4 Cavalry building, and that chain is in camps only. They get shields giving an almost token 20% missile block chance, but it's something. And melee defense 38. Cost goes up to 1250 to recruit and 313 upkeep. With great weapons at the same Tier 4 building, cost rises again to 1350, upkeep 338, and the one and only improvement over the base, shieldless version is bonus versus large of 30. Having said that, oh my Sigmar, bonus of 30 against large? That's borderline insane. Let's hold that thought and go into the redline skills for now. Beast Riders provides Mournfang with up to plus 12% weapon strength and plus 12 flat charge bonus at 3 pips, so raising the charge bonus to an even 80. Trained Beasts, and this time I'm using the correct slide, thank you commenters, grants rank 7 Mournfangs with leadership plus 5, speed plus 10%, and melee attack plus 7, because melee attack never gets old, especially when you hit this hard. In the tech tree, you can get a couple of techs really early on, probably before you actually have cavalry to benefit. Ride and Stick adds plus 12% percentile charge bonus, but if you're up to 80 already, a percentile buff is just fine. Saddle Sore Cream adds plus 1 to recruit rank. For Mournfang specifically, Mournfang Scent grants plus 2 recruit rank, of course cumulative. That's it, but getting new recruits up to higher rank quicker has its benefits. So how do we use the Mournfang Cavalry? Well, there's the non-Great Weapon version and the Great Weapon version. For the non, as I've mentioned, they're very good at throwing models around, but basically you want to get them something that's inherently hard to do in crowded combat. Get them a clean charge. Against non-anti-large infantry, or ones not braced, they're quite brutal, but the nature of splash and charging means they'll actually do more short-term damage to a packed unit than a spread-out one like archers, in a sense. The charge is mighty and it'll hurt, but it's still only 12 entities. Once you're done that part, the Mournfang Cavalry are generalist armor-piercing mounts, very active and punchy, but the math says no more than 48 entities maximum can be damaged by splash. They'll rip Empire Knights to shreds, but Storm Vermin with 160 entities minus whatever fell from the charging and general combat will still resist for a while. So you need to be mindful of just how big the ocean they're splashing around in is. Pulling them out for other charges and using their combination of speed and armor to annihilate units vulnerable to this works fine. Basically a somewhat slower and lower entity count version of Saber Tusks in that role. Now, the Great Weapons version is so fundamentally different that I don't want to lump it in. Not only do the other variants have 0 special bonus versus infantry for you to quote-unquote lose when switching to this variant, bonus versus large of 30 is gigantic when your base melee attack started at 36. They'll connect so often and do 150 weapon strength, plus whatever bonuses are there on top of that, tilted heavily toward the armor-piercing end, that a lot of cavalry and monstrous infantry will simply melt to them. The time to kill is just that much lower. So, while the ordinary one is what you'll get at tier 3, and the Iron Fists are tankier and better for sustained combat against a host of opponents. The Great Weapons are your earliest option among recruitable units for true dedicated anti-large, and while not ideal for single-entity monsters, everything else is going to run away from the hills in abject terror, not because the unit causes terror, but because it inflicts such high damage as to inflict morale shocks with shocking speed. It's not that the other variants are bad, but when it's Tamarkan, 3 heroes, 4 beasts of Nurgle, and a smattering of Plague Ogres and Chosen, the regular versions have a tough time of it. Having said that, if you have clean charges against infantry not prepared to resist them, do you even need/want Ogre Bulls anymore? The armor piercing keeps Mournfangs relevant straight to endgame also. Against not Tamarkan, their relevance might rise precipitously. One final note, if the enemy does not have the specialized tools required to make anti-armored cavalry work easy, which tends to be rough for ogres themselves until higher tiers, it's very hard to actually kill Mournfang cavalry. So part of their value on offense might be lost, but the mobile tankiness is actually fairly impressive. Maybe not against all monster armies, but there's a lot else in the game. Take care, and have fun trampling the foe underfoot. Stomp was a tabletop rule, or so I understand.